Hey guys, coldbrew here. Welcome back to another video. We have the Oela Fusion. It's coming to an end. If you haven't got any of the rares by luck and you missed one of the events or tournaments, then unfortunately you won't be able to complete it. So just save your resources for the next fusion or fragment collection or whatever. It's gonna probably come in March with the raid's fourth year anniversary. So have that in mind, save your resources. But what I wanted to make this video about was not about fusions, not about energy, not about anything like that, but about the Forge. The Forge was introduced in 2021, and since then it has been the most important part, I would think, to any account out there, even end game accounts. Growing accounts, beginner accounts, mid game, late game, end game, however you want to call them, all of them use the Forge. And with this one, I wanted to make a tier list of all the sets that we have for the Forge, from the Forge, how you get each set. I'll explain which one is most important and why, for I would say the majority of players out there. Okay, so we're gonna go through all the sets. You're gonna have to have this in mind, since forging these items can take a lot of effort. Some of these materials are acquired only through events. Some of these materials are acquired only through faction wars, and some of these are acquired only through forge sets and the Doom Tower. So all of these are very specific areas where you have to have in mind and using up your resources wisely and not spending them without any concern of whether the item that you're gonna get is gonna be good or not. You have to have everything in mind before you come into the Forge and have a goal specifically on what item you're looking for and who's gonna equip it from all your champions. Your account will be different. Each of one of you guys out there, your account is probably different. What you need, let's say it's perception boots. Another guy out there might be looking for a swift parry set. There's so many different sets available through the Forge, and all of them are very, very strong. So let's get this started. I'll start out, of course, with the first one here on the list with this swift parry set, and boom, we have a tier list popping up right here. I'm gonna put all these in order of how they show up in the Forge, so we make things clear. So the swift parry set, this is one of the OG sets for the Forge. This was included at the launch of the Forge and was the top tier in terms of PvP sets available for the game. So this one does provide a 4-set bonus, which is speed boost by 18%, critical damage, and a 50-50 chance to actually have an unkillable buff on yourself when you're hit by a finalizing hit. Okay, any moves that can ignore unkillable, of course, go through this one as well. Unkillable was very, very strong for a long time and can still be very strong. But what I would say is, like, even if I lower my tier list down a little bit, it is the requirement for Magisteel. So Magisteel is acquired from the arenas and the Forge Pass, and is a very limited resource available to people out there, especially people who use the Forge all the time. So have that in mind, that the swift parry and the deflection set use a lot of these materials, and of course they use the core hammers and the will stones. These are available from faction wars, but the core hammers are mostly available through events. Right, so the core hammers right here, these are available mostly through events. You can get them from all the other areas as well, such as the clan shop, but mostly the majority of what you're going to get is through events. I would recommend players out there to avoid crafting swift parry. It's no longer the top tier set, and especially if you're low on Magisteel. If you're comfortable with your Magisteel, do not craft this. You can craft this, but do not craft this if you are running low. Like for me, as an example, I've got 1,000 Magisteel because I craft a lot when CBC comes. I constantly pretty much run out, and there's no way around it. I have to ignore the swift parry and deflection set. So on a set on its own, I would say is okay if you manage to get 4 pieces, but it's so difficult to get 4 worthwhile pieces for this kind of set bonus, and this doesn't really shine anywhere else than the arenas. For PvE situations, you could go for something else from the traditional sets that we have available in the game. So for the swift parry set, I would probably put it in the I would say it's no longer in the A category. I don't think it is that strong, and I want to limit the amount of sets that we have for the A tier and the S tier. I want to have the majority in the B tier, C tier, D tier, and then only a couple on the S tier and A tier. All right, so getting started, the swift parry is going to go to the B tier. By but it's a very close to the A tier just because of that speed boost that it gives in terms of a bonus. And I'll probably shift these through as the video goes on. Next one in the list is gonna be the Deflection Set. So the Deflection Set can give you a 20% HP and defense boost, plus a 25% chance to deflect one debuff onto the attacker. This is very low chance, and which is the reason not so many people actually get this one. It does also share the core hammers that you can get from events, so you can use either the Swift Parry set or Deflection Set when you're crafting. It's all up to you. And then faction wars materials right here to craft this set. This is not a very commonly used set, and there's very specific bosses where you can use this against, let's say, the Nether Spider or the Bumble boss for the Doom Tower. This is more of like an early game consideration, but after that I would say completely ignore this set, even more so than the Swift Parry set. It will not go to the D tier as there's obvious uses for it, especially if you're having issues with the Bumble boss, one of the most difficult bosses in the Doom Tower. It's definitely in the top 3. So I'll put the Deflection Set not in the completely trash category, but in the D category because of how little you're gonna use it and how unlikely it is that you're ever gonna need anything more than this. So carrying on forward with the Resilience Set. So Resilience Set is not that bad, to be honest. For me, I don't think Resilience Set is not that bad when you are growing your account, where you're in a beginner, you're going into the more mid game, you're still looking for a good, set bonus. You can actually craft this, and since it doesn't share any materials with the Perception Set, it doesn't really matter for you, unless of course again you're limited with the Magic Seal. If you're not limited, then you can definitely craft this. But as with all sets, I would say be very careful when you're using your rank charms and your rarity charms, and then your substat charms. These are all very important alongside the tier quality of the gear that you will be crafting, because these are very limited and there's very few areas that you can get these charms. Again, you can get them from the clan shop, you can get them daily, the rank charms and rarity charms, but these will be limited, and these will be very much needed later on when you're doing the Ramantu missions. If you ever want to get Ramantu, there is some missions, let's say, that use an accuracy charm, I think 50 times. So have that in mind. Have a look at the missions and be prepared to not go below those amounts if you're ever crafting. So sets like Resilience, I wouldn't even use any charms on them, and just if I get lucky, I get lucky with the crafting. It's a very solid set for the 2 set bonus. It gives the stats that you're looking for, HP and defense percent, very strong, very basic though, and with nothing added on top of that. And with the power creep that we're getting with Empowerment and Awakening, these bonuses get weaker and weaker, unfortunately. So I would put this set again probably in the B tier, just because of its higher usefulness than, let's say, the Deflection Set. I don't think it's that bad as a Deflection. I could even see it better than the Swift Parry, since Swift Parry is high cost in Magic Steel, very limited in the way that you can get this, and the amount of crafting that you can do for this compared to the Resilience Set is very, very limited. It's like 10% of what you can get out of Resilience. A good example here is I can make 228 items right now, 218, and I can make 130 with Swift Parry. So and that is not even true. It's 109 of the smaller ones, 21 of the bigger ones, and here's 210. So yeah, a 10% almost exactly right here. So going on to the next set. The next set is going to be the Perception Set. This is my personal favorite set and one of the most important sets in the game, especially as you're growing your account. It will become a little bit of a set that you can ignore later on in the game, especially as you're into end game and you have good perception already. If you have a couple of sets already saved up, perception will not be as crucial, not because you'll stop crafting this, but because you're going to be limited in the rank charms and the rarity charms, and in that way you will not use these anymore on perception. But for the majority of players out there, using the rank charms and rarity charms is almost a requirement when you're crafting perception, just so that you can get a good value out of your crafting, get those perception gear. And perception gear can be equipped on almost all champions out there that can apply a debuff. You can apply a debuff, but you don't care so much about accuracy, like insane amounts of accuracy, but you still need a little bit of speed. And since it's a set you can basically get for free, it's only through crafting. You craft these cost a little bit of silver, but then you sell the items, you get your silver back for the majority here of crafting. It's the upgrading that really costs silver in this game. So perception, I would comfortably place this in the S tier, but we'll see how that goes. And if I keep like one set only in the S tier, I'll have to think about this. But S tier definitely, in the sense of everybody needs a perception set. You can even use it on some specific damage dealers who require accuracy. Champions like Ethos, who does apply a weaken, I'm going to give you an example here, can actually get use out of a perception set. So have that in mind. If they get a little bit of accuracy, it's not that bad. Like applying the weaken, example of Ethos, or any other champion that applies debuffs that is also a nuker, is definitely useful, but not for Trunda. Not for Trunda. Let's go to the next one, Affinity Breaker. This one had a lot of promise. So the Affinity Breaker set had a lot of promise. It's a 4-set bonus, which is what really breaks my will to actually use this item. I would prefer if this was a 2-set bonus, 30% crit damage boost, and a 20% chance to change a weak hit into a critical hit. So this does not add on top of the, or remove the chance to do a weak hit. This is a different category of RNG by itself, which makes it much weaker for me. The only reason that I crafted these in the past was just to sell them and get silver. No reason whatsoever. These require a lot of dedication, and to get a good set out of this means a lot of focus from the Doom Tower, since this is where you farm it from. You farm it from the Nether Spider, and unfortunately it's one of the more difficult bosses in there. Not an impossible boss like some of the others, like it doesn't require very specific champions to beat it. You can still beat it with a good amount of variety of champions, but still not worth it for the farming. So the Affinity Breaker set, although can have its uses, for the 4-set bonus, potentially losing a Savage set bonus, it has to go on a low tier where you don't really need it anymore. And I can't see myself at all using it, or ever thought of using an Affinity Breaker, because of how specific this is. So I'll put this in the D tier category, and D tier category, and we'll continue on with the remaining amount of sets. So next one up is the Untouchable. So the Untouchable is a pretty cool set. It's an immunity set, but a little bit better with the resistance. It can have a lot of uses, and this is one of the most useful end game items that you can have. Especially the immunity set can be very useful when you're starting an arena fight. There's limited uses out of arenas or tag arenas. Okay, it's very limited uses where you can use the immunity buff. The resistance is nice, but you're just using this set to add on top of your resistance already. And this again can be RNG heavy, but it is with all crafting, or even, you know, just generally farming sets in this game, it can be very difficult. So the Untouchable set, it's a very good set. I will probably put it in the A tier, just because of how useful this can be for the arenas and how sought out for it will be for you. But I'm okay dropping it at here. We'll see on how that goes in terms of closing this tier list. So next one up is the Fatal Set. So the Fatal Set can be good as you're starting out. It is one more of these sets that you can farm through the Doom Tower. One of the more easier bosses, the Magma boss, all right? The Magma Dragon, I think it's called. So Fatal Set can give you extra a little bit of crit rate, but it's not better than the Cruel Set. The 5% crit rate is not better than 5% ignore defense. So have that in mind when you're using these. Only use them if you can craft, luckily, some of these. And I will not totally disregard this set, since it's a 2-set bonus and can be useful for, you know, just improving your overall stats on an attack base damage dealer. Using these on anything else is pretty much a shame, and I wouldn't consider them. Not so much. So I'll put this on the C tier, but a little bit better than Deflection for sure. So going up next, we have the Frostbite set. So Frostbite set does give you a 15% chance to block freeze debuffs. This of course stacks with the more Frostbite sets you have. This can have some uses, but freezes in this game are very limited. There hasn't been an encounter like a boss here where we need this set to be almost a requirement to beat the boss. Okay, there is the ice spider, right, whatever it's called, but it's, you don't really go in there with a frostbite. You can go in there with a cleanser. Any cleanser or a block debuffs will be useful in there instead of the frostbite set. This could have some uses for the arenas, but again, it's pretty much a set that you will be crafting to sell for silver, and I doubt you'll use this maybe as an offset, like you get good substats and you use that instead. So save up your rank charms and all that for a better set out there. So looking at this one, I'll drop this into the D tier. It's alongside the Affinity Breaker, and I think this is a reasonable thing to expect. Next one up is the Bloodthirst. The Bloodthirst was a more recent addition to the Forge compared to the other sets that we went through so far, because of the newer bosses that you had to encounter. Okay, this one is, I believe, from the Eternal Dragon. So the Eternal Dragon is a more difficult boss. I wouldn't recommend farming this unless you have like a clan boss team that really needs a lifesteal set. Okay, lifesteal has fallen out of use with all these unkillable block damage teams that we have right now. Even, you know, the Infinity Shields team, it doesn't use lifesteal. It's a good set if you are pushing through, but if you are pushing through, you pretty much have good sets already and probably won't need the lifesteal so much so that you would go for Bloodthirst. But overall, if you can craft some good pieces here and get a 4-set bonus working, that's not bad. But lifesteal has not so many uses anymore, at least as it used to have like 3 years ago. So the Bloodthirst set will probably go, and I'll probably place it somewhere here in the B tier just because of how lifesteal works overall. Guardian set is one other big set that has a lot of uses both for PvP and PvE, and especially if you need some carrying from your supports. How you use this set is the champion you equip this basically has a constant ally protection all on them, plus a small amount of healing every turn. This is huge. This is not as good as the Regent set, but again, this is an ally protect from a set and then a heal every time you get a turn. This can be huge if you can manage to use a champion that gets multiple turns, like extra turns, or a champion that constantly boosts turn meter. This set will be very useful overall in a whole team setup, because this will be protecting your team. So Guardian set, very good, very useful in situations such as PvP and PvE, as we get bosses that hit more and more, like the Sand Devils, Necropolis, or the Iron Twins. You can definitely equip Guardian sets in there to mitigate a little bit of the damage that your team takes through the Guardian sets. So you'll need a lot of these, and crafting these can take a while, but it's definitely something that you can consider. And I would put this even higher than the immunity set, because I can see more use cases out of this one rather than the immunity set. Okay, next one is the 4HU set. This one is very strong as well, a stronger resistance set. And if you guys know, the resistance sets you can farm from the Ice Golem, it's absolutely the worst set out there in terms of getting it, because you farm the Ice Golem. There's so many sets in there, but only basically the reflect set and I would say, yeah, the resistance set are good. So 2 sets out of an Ice Golem is not so much worth it. Some people out there farm actually this guy right here, the Bommel, for this one, more for PvP. So you're going for like a very high resist plus a little bit of extra bonus through the defense percent. Have that in mind, but it's not something that you need to worry so much if PvP is not your focus. So if PvP is not your focus, I can totally see this going into the B tier category just because of that. But since it allows you to basically ignore Ice Golem a little bit, I kind of like it more than any of the other ones right here. So I'll put it on the B tier right here. So we only got 4 sets left, guys. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please consider doing so. So let's have a look at the Lethal set. So the Lethal set is one of my most favorite sets because this is a Savage set, but better. 10% crit rate boost plus the Savage bonus, which is ignoring 25% of the enemy's defense. Have that in mind when you're farming Fire and you're not getting Savage, that you can actually craft this through farming the Dark Fae boss. There's so many different teams out there that can farm the Dark Fae boss now. that it makes this possible to actually farm by any account out there, and getting a lethal set is so good for just improving your damage dealers. This is huge. This of course cannot be equipped by everybody, the lethal set, unfortunately, but you'll keep on crafting it. And if you're having issues with the Fire Knight and getting those savage sets, have lethal in mind and craft that. I'm gonna put lethal in probably the A tier right now, and we're already heavy on the A and B so far. I mentioned that I want a good split between these. The S tier, we're having perception in there and it's not moving, but let's go on to the next one. The next three are the Forge Pass sets. So the Forge Pass, unfortunately, is not a free set. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So the Forge Pass, unfortunately, is not a free way for you guys to get the set. You can get a little bit of the set and craft it, but unfortunately, it will take money to get a good amount of these so that you can get a good amount of sets crafted. I mean, the price is $20 for 200 items. It's not so bad in terms of the overall values of the game, but if you're on a budget, spending here and there, wherever we say it's not a bad value, you know, it reaches your budget pretty quickly, right? Most people have like a $20 to $50 max per month on a game. So spending all of that just for gear can be seen as a little bit too much. So I understand that. But again, any of the Forge Pass sets are good. The Instinct set, after its buff, which it used to be 15% ignore defense, and now it has become 20%. Now it's closer to the Savage set and can be used to breach the gap a little bit for your damage dealers, to get them to do more damage, of course, if you're having issues getting Savage. Once you have these sets on, you'll be farming, of course, a little bit more in order to get Savage eventually and replace this. So this is not an irreplaceable set, unfortunately. So for this one, I'm gonna put Instinct set into the B tier, a little bit better than the Bommel one. And now I'll have to drop the Bloodthirst to the C tier category just because of how evenly I want these to be. My best guess, we've got 2 sets left, is that we're gonna have maybe one more in S tier and then one other in any of the other tiers. We'll see how this goes, but I don't want to have a heavy A tier with all these sets. So Instinct set, very good, but again, will eventually be replaced. The Bolster set now is a very unique set, okay, guys? So the Bolster set gives a 30% protected HP ally shield. So protected means it cannot be removed. So you only go through it if you have the damage to go through it, or you have a specific skill which ignores shield. So have that in mind. The Bolster is very unique and it's currently offered through the Forge Pass. So the Bolster set can be a big plus for the arenas. It's not so good for PvE, not so much because it doesn't do work. It does work. It's still a shield set plus a heal every turn, but the problem is, again, the Forge Pass. So if you don't buy the Forge Pass, you won't have a lot of these, so it will be difficult for you to craft one. If you do happen to have these, the Bolster set will be nice. It gives you extra healing, it gives you a shield, but I would go, let's say, for the Guardian set instead of the Bolster set if it's PvE that I'm focused for. For PvP though, this is a very strong set, and I can definitely see it being in the A tier. So we bump it up to the A tier, and I would think a little bit lower than the Guardian set. The reason for this is because the Guardian set can be used in a lot of situations for PvE, and for PvP it can still be used regardless of all the stone skins that we have anymore and the Bolster sets. But this is very close because, again, of the stone skin and all that. So I'm dropping the immunity set a little bit lower right here in the B category. So let's carry on with the final one, and the final one will be one that I don't think it's surprising. Okay, that is the Defiance set. Well, I'm gonna pop it in there in the S tier, and I'll explain why this is one of the best sets that we currently have in the game. Again, offered through the Forge Pass. The Defiance set gives you a defense of 10% as a boost, 2 set bonus, 15% damage taken from enemy AoE attacks is now reduced, 15% reduction. So just have a read on that. 15% reduction on damage taken. That is actually insane. That amount of reduction from a 2-set bonus plus the defense percent makes the Defiance set a very, very solid 2-set bonus to have for the majority of champions out there. That you can use a Bolster Set plus a Defiance set, and with those two bonuses together have a very beefy, you know, support for your go second team in the arena. But it has so many uses in PvE as well because of that 15% damage reduction. It's like Stalwart Set, but this is way better, and is, I would say, the one set that you want to be, you know, equipping everybody if you can spare a 2-set bonus to apply on everybody. So that's why I put it on the S tier. I don't think it's better than Perception, again, because Perception is much easier to get, right? If I would consider the ease of getting these sets and the bonuses, I could possibly see myself changing the tier list a little bit. But overall, I'm happy with how this tier list has been. Maybe the Resilience set, I could have dropped this to the C tier to have a more balanced B and C tier, and the Swift Parry being a little bit higher. But again, I don't see any use of the Swift Parry, especially for early game accounts, especially because it's very difficult to get. So I could drop this one instead. Probably have Deflection a little bit higher than the Fatal. And then Bloodthirst, it's a little bit better. Swift Parry, it's a little bit better just because of the speed bonus and that you can craft it. So you can possibly get a solid speed boost out of your 4-set bonus just because of this. So this is the tier list, guys, for the Forge sets. Do you agree with this? Of course, I'm happy for any feedback down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider doing so. It definitely helps the channel grow as we get more subscribers. Could possibly get, you know, more and more advertising, and if we get more advertising on the channel, I can grow and buy better stuff, like maybe a better microphone, because sometimes this thing I want to throw it out the window. Anyway, guys, thank you so much. This was a long video. I hope this cleared things up about the Forge sets. I'm open to any discussion down below in the comments about these and which one you think. I think we're gonna have more and more Forge sets as the game grows, but for now we have a solid rotation of the Forge or the Forge Pass between 3 different items, the same way that the Doom Tower has 3 different variations of bosses in there, 3 different rotations. So maybe they keep with this one and they rotate through them, or maybe they add more. Only time will tell. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.